guys, it's me, Lena the Plug, more like Lena the Mom these days. Officially, Lena the Mom, if you guys don't know, is the second Instagram that I made that is totally separate from my regular Instagram where I can show you all my mom stuff. And it's been called Lena the Mom for a while now, and now it is actually officially true because I no longer have Ms. Parker in my belly, but she's out here on planet Earth and I've been taking care of her for the last month. She's actually 1 month old today. She was born on November 14th. I'm filming this on December 14th, so officially 1 month. Last time I was sitting in this seat right here on this couch, I was filming a video called Why I'm Still Pregnant, and I was 42 weeks pregnant when I filmed that. So I would highly recommend watching that video before you watch this one because there's a bunch of information that is basically, you know, it's like season 1, this is season 2. Like, you need to know that stuff kind of before you watch this episode. But I'm just gonna leave off from where I was at that last video. And excuse me if I seem a little bit like all over the place. I just spent like 20 minutes trying to figure out my camera and the lighting system. I feel like I've forgotten everything that happened before Parker and I'm relearning the world because my entire 24/7 life has been Parker, 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 everything Parker. And I just feel like I don't know how to do things that I used to do before. And I feel like if you're a mom, you've probably had this experience before. But anyways, so last time I talked to you guys, I was 42 weeks pregnant, and the tone in that previous video was like, I'm still pregnant and it's all good, because it was all good and things changed like very quickly and out of nowhere. But basically, I kept trying to do things to go into labor and they were not working. I had like a zillion membrane sweeps, and I got a membrane sweep by this doctor who was gonna accompany my home birth if I was gonna give birth at home, because after 42 weeks, you legally cannot give birth at home without the presence of a doctor. So that doctor gave me a membrane sweep, and this was Thursday, November 12th, I guess. And after I got that membrane sweep, I started having super regular contractions, and I thought like, okay, this is it. I think I'm actually gonna go into labor. But the next day, I went to see a new OB who would basically be my doctor if I had to go to the hospital. And I was going to meet with him just in case things, you know, looked like I had to go to the hospital, since I was 42 weeks pregnant in 5 days, or 3 days at this point. So, you know, it's kind of like you have to have the baby at some point, right? And when I went to see this doctor, he said that everything on the tests looked great. I was fine, the baby was okay, but he really, really wanted to induce me like right after that appointment. He was like, go home, pack a bag, come back. And I was like, no, because I felt like I was really gonna go into labor on my own. I had been having regular contractions for almost 24 hours, and that was like the most progress I had seen in the few weeks that I was trying to go into labor. So I really thought, give me one more night. Like, I'm gonna go into labor tonight. I won't even need to go to the hospital. So he like compromised with me. This was a Friday, and he was like, fine, if you don't go into labor tonight, I need you to come in at 6 a.m. to get induced. I was like, okay, fine. So I left, talked to my midwife. I was like, I really think I'm gonna go into labor tonight. Like, I'm probably gonna be calling you at like 2 a.m. going into labor. And I did keep having contractions all day long. And by the time I was going to bed that night, my contractions were pretty painful. Like, lots of back labor, and I almost thought I wasn't gonna be able to sleep. It was really, really painful, but I was really excited because I was like, this is it. I'm actually gonna go into labor the night before I've scheduled my induction, which so many of you guys have commented on my last video. I was gonna get induced, but then I went into labor that same day or the day before, which like, this just seems to happen. So I thought that was gonna be me. Nope. I went to bed with my contractions. I ended up falling asleep. Oh yeah, and my contractions, I didn't even really think about it when I was going to bed and I was having them, but like they were really long, like longer than a minute and a half, which I didn't realize at the time like isn't really normal or common, but I just ignored it, went to bed. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like in a totally annoyed, bad mood. I'm like, I'm going to the damn hospital to get induced, something that I didn't prepare for at all. I didn't think about, like, I did pack a hospital bag just in case, because I was like, brought to my attention that I probably should. But I was not in the mind state of going to the hospital. So what do? We go to McDonald's, we get breakfast, because you know, they don't like really eat in the hospital. And then we go to check in and I'm like so grumpy. Like I'm not having a good attitude about being there at all. And it wasn't helping that I was getting asked like the same question over and over again. And I felt like, you know, people were kind of looking at me funny because I was super pregnant. Like they don't let you go 42 weeks, 5 days pregnant in the hospital. I feel like I was like an alien to them, you know? And so I'm being checked in and there's like an IV being attached to me so they can start hydrating me. And they hooked me up to the monitor so they could have the fetal non-stress test, the same test that I had done like 4 times that week, and every single time, baby passed with flying colors, looking great. So whatever, I'm just laying there, I'm tired as hell, it's like super early in the morning, and Adam's there with me, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like 10 people rush into the room where I'm being checked in and triaged. Out of nowhere. No one tells me what's going on. They just start working. I guess there's like a panic button in that room and one of the nurses hit it and all of a sudden there's tons of people in the room and they are yelling and moving and flipping me over and someone puts a shot in my arm. Like out of, you know, no one is walking me through any of this and I'm like trying to signal with my eyes to Adam across the room. I have no idea what's going on. I was having a panic attack. I started hyperventilating, started crying because I had no idea what was going on. And like, it was obviously a dangerous situation, but I wasn't being walked through it, right? So they take my gurney into another room and everyone starts to calm down. I guess that I was having a really long contraction that I wasn't even aware that I was having because by the time I woke up that next morning, I wasn't really feeling like the back labor and all my contractions anymore. So I stopped counting. Like I had this timer on an app where I had been keeping track of my contractions for a few days. But by that morning, I was like, I'm not going to keep track anymore because I'm going to the hospital to get induced anyways. So I stopped keeping track of anything, and I wasn't even feeling anything. So what was the point, you know? But one of the nurses was like, "You didn't feel that? You were having a super long contraction." I was like, "No." She's like, "Look, your stomach's really hard," and I'm like, I was just not aware, right? And so I guess my contraction was really, really long, and so the baby was having a hard time breathing. So normally what's supposed to happen, and what the non-stress test is for, is when you have a contraction, it is totally normal for the baby's heart to decelerate. But they are supposed to recover after your contraction, right? Because the contraction is like squeezing your stomach tight, and if someone squeezes something tight, you're gonna have a harder time breathing. So because my contractions were so long, the baby wasn't able to like catch her breath basically after my contraction. She was just kept losing oxygen. So that was a problem, right? And the reason it was a problem was because I was there to be induced. And when you're induced, they give you Pitocin, which is basically the synthetic form of, I believe, oxytocin, which is the hormone that stimulates labor. They basically give you the artificial hormone to cause labor to begin. But I wasn't even given that yet, and the baby was already having a hard time with my natural contractions, and the Pitocin would have been giving me more contractions. So here we are, the situation just becomes really real, and the levels change, right? Everything's great, the baby's great, things are fine, we're just here to induce you, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, the baby's having a really hard time breathing and recovering, and this is a dangerous situation. Like, what? Out of nowhere, you know? So obviously I was like freaking out, and when they took us into that other room, they explained to Adam and I what had just happened, and my doctor came, the doctor that I had met the day before, and he was like, hey, baby's stressed out, we haven't even induced you yet. So we don't want to say that you have to have a C-section, but if this keeps happening, you're gonna have to have a C-section because the baby is not doing well. So because that's even on the table, I all of a sudden have to get an epidural, another thing that I had not planned for. I was advised by my midwife and by another doctor, you know, don't be a hero, get the epidural. Getting Pitocin is not like going through a natural labor. Your body is not meant to labor with Pitocin. It's a lot harder on your body. Don't feel like you shouldn't get the epidural. So I had already had that piece of information in my mind, but I didn't realize that I was gonna have to have things happen so quickly. So they set me up with the epidural, and they decide, you know, we're not gonna go with Pitocin yet because it might be too dangerous for the baby. Let's try this old school method with the Foley catheter balloon thing. They basically put a balloon inside of you to see if when it expands, it'll help you dilate. and they thought this is like, you know, it's more low key, maybe baby can handle this. As soon as they set me up with this epidural, I mean, I felt great for like 2 minutes. I called my dad to say happy birthday on FaceTime because it was his birthday, and I was like, I felt great, this is awesome. And then the itching starts. And I mean, like the type of itching that this was, you know, if you have an itch on your arm, you scratch it and it tends to alleviate the itchiness, right? This was nothing like that. It was every single part of my body felt like there were ants crawling under it, and there was nothing that would relieve the itchiness at all. I was just scratching my life away. I think I would have rather been in pain at this point. Probably not, but like at this point, that's how I was feeling. I was scratching myself all over, scratching my face. I'm like, I've been avoiding scratching my body this entire pregnancy because I know it's bad for stretch marks. And here I am just scratching. I mean, I'm just scratching like crazy. And I just felt like no one talks about this. I don't know if it's just like a super rare side effect and it was only happening to me, but it was the worst experience ever. By the next day, when I woke up, there was blood like dried up in my nose because I had scratched my nose so much that it started bleeding inside. Like it, God, I mean, if you watch the birth vlog on the family channel, Adam told me when he was editing it, he had to cut out me saying I'm so itchy like so many different times because it's all I could say. I couldn't even think about like what was going on anymore at that point. Anyways, this is endless. They give me Benadryl through my IV 3 different times, and I get sleepy for like 2 seconds. I think, oh, if I go to sleep, then I won't be itchy anymore. But then the sleepiness passes and I'm just still itchy. It did not work at all. So I'm not the type of person that has had a lot of bad reactions to things in my life. And I just feel like all of a sudden one thing after another starts happening and I need all these different little interventions. And, you know, it's hard for me because I had a totally different idea of what my labor and my birth was going to look like. My daughter's birth was going to look like in my mind. You know, I had candles set up in my room, a birth tub, these people that I had been working with for months would be surrounding me like in my home, and I just wanted something very, very different. I did not feel comfortable in the hospital, and I knew nothing about epidurals and their side effects and their consequences. I didn't research any of it because it was not in my plan. I also did not know anything about Pitocin, and I also did not know anything about C-sections. Like I've been talking to my midwife and my doula on the phone during this whole process. They were still there for me, supporting me and like trying to give me, you know, like I'd ask them questions about all these things because I just hadn't researched. I didn't know. And yeah, it was not what I wanted. But obviously the most important thing was the safety of Parker and making sure that she was okay. So when all these decelerations started happening on the baby monitor, obviously I was freaking out. So basically I get set up with the epidural. I'm itching like crazy, but no one can help me. That's it, end of story. You're just gonna be itchy as hell. They put the balloon inside of me and I'm hooked up to the catheter so I can't walk around anymore. And I have to pee in this one catheter, and then the balloon is supposed to help me dilate. I don't remember exactly how many hours the balloon was inside of me, but basically the baby had another deceleration on the monitor caused by a contraction. And, you know, at that point we really had to revisit the conversation around the C-section, which I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have a freaking C-section. I didn't want to cut my abdomen open and have my baby pulled out. Like, I wanted to push my baby out vaginally because I know that that's like the optimal way for my body to recover, because that's how the body is normally gonna labor. And, you know, like I said, doesn't matter, baby safety is the most important thing. So it's not like I fought it at all. I wasn't like, no, let's keep trying this, let's keep trying that. I was like, this is what we have to do. And also the balloon thing, like it had me at 3 centimeters dilated, which I was already 3 centimeters dilated before the balloon went in. So my body really was not making progress. It was not going into labor no matter what. And I really still to this day do not know why. And it sucks because I'm like, is this gonna happen for my next pregnancy? Like, what do I need to do to prepare? I feel like this is gonna be a really long video because I haven't even said like 50% of what I want to say in this video is already like 20 minutes. So we basically decided that I have to get a C-section. And, you know, that's why we started the epidural, so that, you know, they didn't have to rush me in an emergency and knock me out. Like, I could still be aware of what was going on during the C-section and see my baby when she was born. So, you know, we were prepared for this if this was what was gonna happen. And obviously, like, I'm so scared because my baby's having decelerations on the monitor, her heart rate is dropping really low, and I'm like, are there gonna be long-term consequences to this? I'm like freaking out, trying to Google things because I have no idea what's going on. I'm like trying to read on my phone as this is happening. And luckily I was talking to my doula and my midwife on the phone, and they assured me that, you know, baby is still okay, but, you know, you don't want her heart rate to get any lower. You don't want this to go on longer because it could have long-term consequences. Like, you need to have the C-section. They basically reassured me that the hospital is not trying to get one over on me, that this isn't an unnecessary C-section medical intervention. This is actually really necessary for baby safety, which was good for me because I am a skeptic of the hospital and their interventions, and a lot of my anxiety was coming from all these different reactions that I was having to things and my fear of unnecessary medical interventions. You see it happen with hospitals, they do one thing and then the next thing they need something else, and it happens. But I just really was hoping that it wouldn't happen to me because I really have been wanting the natural home birth experience for the last 10 years. Like, I've always imagined my birth to not be in a hospital, and yeah, it was really hard for me to like process the whole thing. But the worst of it hasn't been begun yet. So basically, C-section it is. They come in to my room, they tell me what's gonna happen, they give Adam scrubs, they tell me that they have to take me into the OR to prep me, and when they take me into the OR, finally, it's I think 45 minutes later, they take me in and I'm like laying there in the OR with all the bright lights, with all these new people. Every time you go somewhere in the hospital, I feel like I was meeting new people, and they weren't explaining to me in a calm way what was happening. They just start doing their job, and I get it. That's their job. They work in the medical service, and they, you know, time is of the essence, but I was like freaked out because I didn't know what was going on. And when we get into the OR, Adam is not allowed to be with me until I've been prepped and until the surgery is about to begin. So I'm by myself and I'm laying there waiting to be prepped, and all of a sudden the baby has another deceleration on the monitor, and I start freaking out. I'm like, why is this happening? Because basically we had realized that if I like laid at a specific angle, then the baby's heart rate was not dropping. Like, there was enough blood flow at that angle that I was laying at. It was like kind of like this, that, you know, she was okay. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm doing the right thing. Like, why is this happening? I start freaking out because we're about to go into surgery and she's having another dip. And I'm like, can this go any faster? But, and Adam is not there to support me. He's not in the room with me. So I'm like with all these new people in this room, and like, they're not really like helping me calm down, which I get is not really their job. Their job is just to make sure baby's okay. But it was just really like traumatizing for me. And the OR in itself was like not a welcoming place. It felt very scary. All of a sudden, all these people are strapping me down to a cross to prep me for surgery. And, you know, when you're pregnant, you're not really supposed to lay on your back. It doesn't feel good. I've actually gotten really lightheaded and almost passed out from laying on my back before. So they're strapping me down to lay me on my back. And not only are they laying me on my back, but they're kind of laying me like with my neck a little farther back than that. And I had already puked, so I felt really sick laying like that. Like, it's not a really good position for nausea. So my anxiety is just going crazy. I'm like, my baby's not okay. I keep puking. They strap me down. They put like, you know, like seat belts basically across your legs. They're injecting more stuff into me so that I could, so that I won't feel the surgery. And they can see that I'm panicked. I'm also shaking because the epidural makes you really shaky, and I'm itchy. Like, all this stuff. I'm just not, I don't know, like kind of like one of the worst experiences ever. So next thing you know, so I don't even know who asked me, but they're like, do you want something for the shakes? And I was like, yeah, and that's it. Lights out. Like, I was out. I had no, I wasn't like under, but I was out. I don't know what they injected me with. Maybe something called relaxin, but next thing you know, I wake up and I just see my baby being pulled out, but I am like totally not conscious. I could barely keep my eyes open. And I know that she's being born because I also hear Adam like to the left of me, like crying and like laughing, like just having this totally emotional, happy moment. But I'm strapped down and I can't communicate with him. He said I kept trying to talk, but I couldn't get the words out, and I couldn't even keep my eyes open. Like, my daughter was born for I don't know, 30 minutes or something before I actually like got to be conscious and involved with what was going on. And it sucked because I could see like over here that they were putting the ointment, the antibiotic ointment in her eyes that I had specifically asked for them not to do. And I was trying to like get my words out, but I couldn't. Like I was just out. And you know, I basically didn't get any of the things that I wanted. I didn't want the umbilical cord to be cut right away. I didn't want the ointment in her eyes. Like all these things that I wanted, I didn't get. And I didn't even get to, you know, like have her put on top of me right when she was born, because obviously I was in a C-section and I had to be like tied up and everything. I mean, I had to be sewed together and everything. So Adam was with Parker for, I don't know, like I guess like 45 minutes before I got to be with them. And when I think about it, it still makes me really sad. And I know, you know, like she was safe, she was totally healthy, she's okay, I should count my blessings, but like, I try not to think about the fact that like, I didn't get to like be with her right when she was born, because it just hurts. It really makes me sad. And I know that I should just be super grateful that there wasn't a situation where she had to be in the NICU for weeks and I couldn't have any contact with her at all. You know, right after they finished sewing me up, they took us into, they took us into one other space to make sure I was okay. And then after that, they moved us into postpartum where we would be staying for a few more days. So, you know I should count my blessings. Like she was totally healthy and everything was okay, but it was a really, really scary experience. We stayed in the hospital for 3 more days. I wasn't able to walk around for 24 hours, but after that they took the catheter out and I was supposed to, you know, try and walk around the hospital a little bit. And she got to stay in our room with us, but I didn't get to do a lot of like cuddling in the bed with her because of the way that the bed was and because of my incision, like was really painful. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that there's like worse birth stories, but I think the hardest part was like coming home the first week. I had the best pregnancy that I think anyone could have ever asked for. I was totally high on happy hormones. I had tons of energy. I worked out every single day. I was loving life. I felt like I was on top of everything, on top of the world. And just like, if that could have been my everyday, all through life mood, 100% I would take it. But all of a sudden, I go through this traumatic experience. I'm having a really hard time getting out of bed. My incision hurts. I'm not allowed to drive. I'm not allowed to walk. My entire life has completely changed. And I have to take care of this baby, which I felt like in the beginning, I wasn't even like able to connect with her because I was so, I mean, I loved her from the very beginning, but like, you know, as selfish as it is, I was just trying to process what had just happened to me. And that first week, like postpartum blues, baby blues, whatever it is, like I wish that I had thought about the fact that that might happen to me more before that first week, because I could not stop crying. The first few days I was still shaking. And I really felt like it was never gonna end. Like, it felt like coming down off of Molly or whatever fun upper drug you've ever done forever. And I thought, like, this is it. This is my life. Like, I'm never gonna smile again. Like, I couldn't laugh. It really, really, really was awful. And I had so much anxiety about Parker. Like, I couldn't stop looking at her. Even when I was supposed to sleep, like, people would come over to relieve me so that I could take a nap. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself either strapped to the C-section bed where they were about to put me under, or I was like, is Parker okay? Is Parker breathing? Should I go look at her again? Like, the anxiety and the depression that first week, wow. I really was like, why do people even do this? Why do people even do this? It was really, 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 really tough. And then on top of that, I had to remember to take care of myself while I'm taking care of Parker, and it wasn't easy. I didn't have the urge to go to the bathroom still. I had absolutely zero appetite, and I had to take all these meds so that I could make sure that I was okay. And I was just so scared. Like, I was like, do I need to hire people to take care of me so that I could take care of her? You know, I have to take care of Parker, and I decided I wanted to breastfeed. So I have to eat, I have to drink water, I have to take care of myself so that I could take care of her. And that was the number one fear I had about getting the C-section was, if I have to take care of myself after major surgery, how am I going to take care of my daughter? Getting out of bed was really hard, but of course I had to get out of bed every few hours, not even less than an hour, to feed her, to take care of her. And I kept wanting to like perch over to look in her bassinet to make sure she was okay, because, you know, I couldn't believe I got to bring this amazing thing home and that she was mine, and I wanted to make sure that she was alive all the time. Yeah, I mean, so many weird things happened after that. The craziest thing was that 2 days after they took off all the adhesive from my back, the adhesive I'm talking about is like they put tape on your back so that the epidural can stay in. It's this huge piece of clear tape. They put it on your back. They put that on my back, and then 2 days later, and then after they took it off, 2 days later, I had the most insane allergic reaction to the adhesive, and the itching did not stop for like over a week. They prescribed, I don't know, hydrocortisone for me. Did not help at all. I'm gonna put a picture of it here because I just like feel like no one's gonna believe how crazy it is unless I show you. Like, this is insane, and my back is actually still scarred up from all the itching of it. Like, it looked like a map of Westeros in my opinion for a second, but now it just looks like a weird kind of like birthmark scar, and hopefully it goes away. But I felt like I just couldn't get any breaks, because after that, my incision started oozing all over the bed. I like woke up in a puddle of just disgustingness in my bed, and I'm like, wait, what? Did Parker pee? Like, did I pee? Am I bleeding? No, yeah, it was my incision, just kept oozing, and I'm like, what do I do? Is it infected? I went to the doctor. He had some of the disgusting ooze come out, put me on antibiotics, and I'm like, God, I had to take so many different drugs throughout that entire week, and I'm just like not like that. I don't take anything, and it sucked. It sucked because I just felt like I wanted to do everything the most natural way possible, but I you know, things don't always go according to plan, and I couldn't have that. I couldn't have what I wanted, and you know, I'm breastfeeding Parker, so everything that I was taking, Parker was getting, which also bummed me out because I didn't want to have her introduced to unnatural things that she didn't need in her body. Things don't always go according to plan, and I know that, but when it happened to me, I really wasn't ready for it. And you know, when I see natural home births, water births come up on my Instagram feed, because I followed a bunch of home birth pages, it still makes me really sad, because I really wanted that experience, and really wanted to experience what my body was meant to do the natural way without having to have all these interventions. But you know, that's the good thing about the medical industry, is that sometimes some babies wouldn't have made it before we had all the things that we have now. And so, you know, they can save those babies, they can save those moms, and so really I should be grateful. But I don't know, that first week, every time I closed my eyes, I just saw that surgery room, and it was like really traumatic for me, and all the things that started happening afterwards, you know, it was just really scary. And I'm sure a lot of you watching this are probably like, your big baby, you know, things just don't always go according to plan, and I know that, and that's fine. You know, I just wanted things to be as natural as possible, because, you know, birth is like a beautiful, primal, natural process, and I just wanted to experience that, and I couldn't. And you know, I'm trying to come to terms with that still. However, I do want to say that, ending this on a good note, it doesn't mean that I can't have a vaginal birth in the future. There's such thing called a VBAC, vaginal birth after C-section, and you know, I'm not planning on getting pregnant anytime soon, but when I do get pregnant, I do want to try to have a vaginal birth. I don't know if I'll pick the hospital just in case something happens, or if I'll try to do it at home, or if I'll pick a birth center that's close to a hospital. But I would like to wait at least 1.5 years to get pregnant again, because the longer I wait, the better the chances of me having a successful vaginal birth after C-section are possible. And they usually recommend you wait a little bit longer. So if you wait a year and a half, then you won't have the baby for like, you know, 2+ years. So that's the plan right now. But as we know, plans change. Another good thing out of all the bad things that happened, my baby is totally perfect and healthy and beautiful and wonderful and alert and alive and active and just so smart. And I feel like I'm really, really bonding with her, even though I didn't get a lot of the things, you know, when she was first born, like the skin to skin immediately and all that. I still feel like we're bonding amazingly. And, you know, the one thing that I didn't think was going to be able to happen for me was the breastfeeding thing, because, you know, you can still breastfeed if you've had breast augmentation, but it depends on where you got your incision for the breast augmentation. So a lot of times people will get their incision underneath the breast and they'll just have the breast implant put in that way. But I had my breast augmentation, I have 2 of them actually, where they cut half the nipple open and they put in the implant and then they sew it back up. And when they do that, they don't know if they're damaging milk ducts or not. And I've had 2 surgeries, so I had 2 chances of them having the opportunity to damage my milk ducts. And I thought like, okay, I might not be able to breastfeed. When I got my surgery, I didn't know that this is a risk. Otherwise I would have picked a totally different place for the incision. But basically I've been able to breastfeed. My milk came in pretty quick and I had been pumping colostrum before I even went into labor to try to go into labor. So like, I knew that this was something that was at least kind of possible, but like now I have tons of milk. Everything's been good with Parker. She doesn't care for bottles when I try to give it to her. She just wants to breastfeed. And I really like, I'm just so glad, because if I didn't get my birth plan and I couldn't breastfeed, I think I'd be way more bummed. So I'm trying to count my blessings. And yeah, I can't believe people have had multiple C-sections because they've had to. Like, props to all the moms, props to every mother out there, but also just props to moms who have to do this over and over and over again, because it is a major surgery. It is not easy to recover from. It's painful, and when you're done with it, you have this whole new life that you need to take care of, and your life has completely changed again. So yeah, I just wanted to share my experience, my story. I'm not looking for any sort of unsolicited advice, or I don't want anyone to tell me, you know, you should just be glad that she was, I am glad she's okay. I'm not saying that at all, but I have to honor my experience and honor what happened and come to terms with it. So this is me sharing that story with you guys. But yeah, there will be more videos of Parker coming out soon. I've just been super busy with, you know, everything Parker wants. That's what I'm doing. She wants to be carried all the time. So I'm carrying her. She wants to eat, feeding her. Like, Parker 24/7 right now. I haven't really taken much time to do things outside of that. I haven't been thinking too much about work, but there will be more videos with her in the future. And I actually have my pregnancy transformation video coming out soon. It's being edited right now. I took a video of myself from 12 weeks to 42 weeks, and then I took a video with Parker at the end, so you get to see the progress of how my bump grew, and then her. But yeah, I have been meaning to make this video all month, and here I am. I'm glad I waited, because I think if I tried to make this video the first week of Parker's life, I would have been crying the whole time, because I just cried a lot that week and the following week. And it's tough, and I think more people should talk about postpartum depression and baby blues and not being able to connect with your baby right away, because your baby's born and you feel like, holy shit, I can't stop crying. And then everyone's telling you, aren't you so happy? You have this new life. And you're like, and you are happy, you love your baby, but there's a lot of things going on in your brain and with your hormones, and it's just really hard to be like totally enthusiastic about it, at least for me. But I know that that's not only my experience. I know that tons of mothers have experienced that, but people just don't talk about it enough because there's shame and guilt behind it, of like, am I a bad mom for feeling this way? But no, you're not. And I think it's like a weird evolutionary flaw to give women happy hormones during their pregnancy and then totally let them drop right when the baby's born because they have to take care of a new life. Like, That's bizarre. But that's just the way that we were designed, I guess. Anyways, thanks for watching my video, guys. If you have any more questions, yeah, let me know. Maybe I'll be able to answer them in a next video. And let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see now that I'm a mom. I haven't really thought about being the mom YouTuber so much, but I know there's tons of mom content out there because I watched a ton of it during my pregnancy. So maybe I'll make a little video about, I don't know, the products I didn't use and the stuff that was totally necessary. I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. I love you guys. Have a good day on purpose, and I will see you next video.